Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Questlove Supreme. I'm your host, Questlove. With me today is the Team Supreme family, featuring our newly minted God of all parades, Sugar Steve.
I'm the king of the New York. Supposed to be a joke. Me just campaigning to try and get on the float, and then you got me on the float, and then it was a matter of like sort of figuring out what the hell was going on that day. It was pouring rain, and uh, it just ended up. Long story short, it just ended up being so much more enjoyable and so much more heartwarming than I thought my heart could get. Like I'm so jaded at this point, and being from New York, you never think you can see a
You're supposed to be jaded,
something new.
right?
You just yeah, and there I was, and it was just waving at kids and just taking it all in, seeing the city from that perspective. It was just it was kind of magic. It was great.
Yeah, I have to say that if you're a generation person raised on like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, uh,
Right.
I highly recommend getting in a parade by hook or crook.
Yeah,
Or
so now I'm just looking around for people with parades. So if you know anybody,
you're available for parades. Good. Birthday boy Bill, how's it, sir? How are you?
Great. I'm so jaded I don't even go to the parade anymore. How about that? That's like next level jadedness. Fuck
Wait a
that.
minute.
Anyway,
You once
uh,
got me on a parade float.
honestly, my favorite part about the parade every year is seeing you guys because you always are the float that's right next to the Sesame Street float, and so there's always there's always something happening. But then one year you were on ours, which was like a weird kismety meeting of all the worlds, which was super cool.
My favorite part of being on your float was that was Carol Spinney's last time being on a float. Carol Spinney, who played Big Bird, and there was a moment where Spinney at the time was like at least 80, 88, right?
Something
Still
like that.
playing Big Bird, and they were concerned that him being inside of that hot ass uh, costume would be too much for him to handle at 88 years old. And so he was like, nah, I'll do it. I'll do it. And then maybe like 2 hours in, he was sort of like, okay, I need some air. And I know that one of the main things that you guys are vigilant about is not letting kids see a lifeless Muppet, because the second that the character's out of them, it just looks dead. Like,
Mhm.
and so the way that they had to cover this entire the way that they had to cover this entire bird, this 8-foot bird, so that he could unzip himself and get some breath was hilarious, because they didn't do it all the way. So there's like people on the west side of the float that could clearly see a slumped over dead big bird, like,
Yep.
and there was like one or two kids like,
Yeah.
but that was the most hilarious thing ever.
Dream crusher.
Like, how was your vacation, your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was good. I'm tripping off of y'all talking about. I just gotta say, I'm so proud of y'all. Y'all talking about people being on floats like this is a regular person thing. Like, well, can I be on your float? You be on my float. I'm gonna be on your float. Like, it's a moment to chill, but and to really celebrate all of y'all. That's really dope. But so, Thanksgiving was great. It was in DC. It was great. Now I'm in Cartagena, Colombia, doing
Got it.
birthday and celebration
You're in
things.
Colombia right now.
Hmm.
Jesus Christ! I was like, man, I'm not even going to talk about her house, because I was like,
Looks
that's a room I've
different.
never seen before.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Y'all gotta get into this. I'm like, Colombia's a beautiful place. So,
Hey,
all the places.
man,
One of the more African
we
rap.
we all might we all might need
Place to go.
uh vacation spots, permanent vacation spots next year. Ladies and gentlemen, I I would like to say our guest needs no introduction,
Yes, he don't.
but I also realize that um whenever you have such a unique talent, oftentimes that particular being might be the favorite of your favorite singer. This might be one of the rare situations in which our guest today might be the favorite singer of your favorite singer's favorite singer. Like,
Favorite singer's mama likes this guy too.
yes,
And
literally,
your favorite singer. And your favorite singer. Come on.
yeah. And it's not, I know I'm working on less hyperbole, but um, having been witness to our guest today, some 25, 26 years ago in my living room. Like, I never had someone literally, like, you remember the moment in Back to the Future when Marty McFly starts doing a modern guitar solo in 1950s, and the entire band stops playing Johnny B. Good, and they're like,
Yup.
what the
Listen to
fuck is
this
this?
shit.
I've never had a musician literally stop me in my tracks. I remember we were playing in my living room, and I think Anthony Tidd was next to me, and I was just like, yo, who? The only time I ever said, like, yo, who the fuck is that? Is usually if, like, some girl that blows my mind. I've never had an artist just make me like, what the hell is this? And more than that, how can I be down? Um, and I stay consistent in saying that I absolutely squander no time to collaborate or work with this artist, simply because, like, it gives me the best seat in the house sometimes, just to really display a level of performance that you rarely truly get to see where we are in this sort of well rehearsed, well curated, um, Instagram filtered, perfected kind of creative cycle that we're in which you're not allowed to see any of the flaws or the bended notes or whatever. And you know, uh, we're here to celebrate, of course, his latest album, "A Just Brightness." Really, his entire history, ladies and gentlemen. One of my favorite. And it's almost a disservice to call him a performance artist, because I can't say a singer, I can't say an artist, I can't even say people or beings. Like,
Exotic dancer.
may
That too.
may
That
may
too.
we may we all truly channel in our creative energy. I have not even channeled in half the creative energy that our guest today has displayed. Please welcome Bilal to
Yeah.
Questlove Supreme.
What an intro.
And now the
What
show's
an
over. Thank
intro.
you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. No, where,
Okay,
where are
can I
you right now,
correct
yo?
you? Can we say our favorite singer? Because he's our favorite. Like,
Yes, I felt bad making this
I mean, I know
a
Steve too.
personal
So
introduction, like it was just about me.
yes.
But this is far beyond giving you your flowers.
Oh,
One
I
second, Bilal. We're
appreciate
getting
that.
we're getting
Grammy award winning Bilal Oliver, by the way. Yes, that's what I meant to say. He's having, like, abused my voice 7 days ago, yelling and screaming. Uh, Actually, incidentally, having fun, not yelling at people. Um,
Mhm.
which is not even half the level of where your voice goes. My voice has been shot for the last, like, 9 days. How, just based on where I'm talking right now, how is it that I assume that, yes, when you sing, it's 0 to 1,000 on the Autobahn as far as dynamics and wherever you think your voice should go at that particular moment.
Mhm.
Do you have a ritual to take care of your voice? Like, how do you prevent what you're hearing right now, me talking like?
I don't usually get hoarse like that, but I've got different concoctions that I make to stop it, like different teas. Like I know if you boil ginger mm, with like when I'm on the road, I got a tea that I make every time because it's like I can be good all the way up until like maybe if I'm on the road for like a month the last week I start. It's not that I'm getting hoarse, but I get like that. I can't sing soft no more, and I like to sing soft. So it's like I can't do nothing soft with the lab. I'm just straight power. But I boil ginger, lemon, and cayenne pepper
Got it. Got it.
Little honey,
in
little honey.
yeah, and the honey, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so
But when I'm mad horse, I put garlic in there, so
and it works sometimes.
it works every time.
Okay.
Like brand new voice.
Damn.
That's like if I'm hoarse and I don't have no voice. But if I'm like good, I still got my voice. Just the cayenne pepper, ginger, lemon thing.
Got it.
It'll just make it perfect. But if I sound like you, I put a little like a not a big ass piece of garlic in there, but a little bit of garlic in there.
Yeah, everyone tells me garlic or oregano, but um, I'm so anti bad breath that
Oh.
I'd rather suffer.
No, don't.
No, but it's like a tea, so it's not like you eating it. So it's like you had something, some soup or something.
It's always the next day, man. I wake up with the dragon. So yeah,
And look at you now. Is it worth
I'll,
it? Is it
I'll
worth
never
it?
eat garlic in my life.
I'm dead serious, yo. Like, it's the next day, the
I,
dragon just
Cares about the
okay.
dragon. You need to be well. Somebody
I completely understand. I mean, I grew up with the name Bilal when they had the movie uh, A House Party,
is
and
Right.
stinky Bilal.
Martin was Stank Breath Bilal. So like my whole fifth grade to eighth grade, I was Stank Breath Bilal, and I was the singer. So like every time I sang, the whole auditorium was like, "Oh, I could smell it." And it was just a movie. It like ruined my life till high school.
All right, so for the benefit of audience members that don't know anything about your history, I'm going to ask you some basic questions. Bear with me. Could you please tell us the glorious city which you first came to this earth?
Philadelphia, of course. Philadelphia, Germantown.
I can't do the siren noise.
Germantown.
Thank you. What was your first musical memory?
First musical memory is probably in my pop's house, uh, acting out Thriller. But shortly after that, like that's just me acting out music by myself. Because
Mhm.
Thriller used to always kind of scare me a little bit, but
The
I would
video?
Hell yeah.
the video scared the shit out of me, but also the album itself with the hoo hoo ha ha ha, all of that kind of shit used to scare me. My pops used to play it to kind of spook me out.
I was wondering what effect did that song have on kids like at a young age? When my dad used to always play Curtis Mayfield's If There's Hell Below, We're All Gonna Go,
Oh yeah.
which is essentially just a bunch of psychedelic echoes and yelling, like, we're in hell. But to this day, it scares me. You know what I mean? Like, I always
Hmm.
wondered if Thriller truly scared people to that level where they just don't want to. Because also, Michael Jackson makes it appear like fun, like, hey, zombies are fun. But, you know,
No, that song scared me before the video came out. I was just that whole talking part in the intro.
oh, Vincent
Jesus
Price. Okay.
My
Christ.
pop
Yeah.
used to scare me and my brother scared the hell out of me. But
Uh,
that's like my first musical, like early music memory. But then, like, I've been singing shortly after that, like on a church choir. Like, I've been singing on a church choir since a really long, like, little kid, like maybe 4 years old. So,
When did they hear it in you? When did everybody else go, wait a minute, what's that? Your family, every.
Um, um, I think I got like a lead vocal like the day I joined the choir. It was but I went to a church where everybody in my family had to be on choir. Like the whole church was my family anyway. Like it
What
was
church is
my
this?
grand it was Second Baptist Church of Franklinville. And it was just a little church in damn, I would say on the other side of Broad Street, Jordan area. As you go keep going down, but literally everybody in the church is my family. My grandma had 13 kids, so I got a big ass family, and everybody in the church around that time, like the 80s, everybody, everybody went to church around then.
So they weren't easily
So
impressed
Had
by
to
your
go to
voice.
church.
yeah, like everybody had to go to church or pass through there. Like only person that didn't go to the church was my uncle.
Always wanted
He
uncle.
was
Always wanted uncle
he was
holdout.
like he was like the Black Panther. He was Nation of Islam. I mean, really nobody messed with him on that. But yeah, I was on the Sunbeam Choir since 4 years old.
So if everybody could sing, then the family wasn't easily impressed by your voice. Then everybody was like, "Yeah, this is what we do."
No, everybody couldn't sing.
Oh,
No,
oh,
they
okay,
was just on the choir. You had to
okay.
be on the choir, even if you suck. You was just
Just
on
so
the
that
choir.
adults would know where you were 24/7 or
Mm-hmm.
okay, so you mentioned Thriller, which incidentally, by the way, as of this recording, today is the 41st anniversary of Thriller debuting on MTV. And also today's the 42nd anniversary of Thriller, the album. Well, technically, November, uh, some say November 30th, some say December 1st, but yeah, we're
Almost 50.
Wow.
Thriller's almost 50.
Wow.
Thriller's a full grown adult with some kids.
Wow.
Mm.
But the thing that you mentioned now, my church experience, especially in 1983, I will say that that was the period where kind of 2 years after Ronald Reagan's kind of very conservative America agenda was really settling in, a lot of the hedonistic 70s adults were atoning, air quote, atoning for their sins by becoming born again Christians. So I once went to a church in which, like, he had copies of Thriller in 1999 and saying, this demonic music you're letting your kids listen to and da 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 da. So you grew up in a household where you grew up in a church heavy household in which secular music was allowed.
Well, my pops was Muslim, so when I went to visit my pops, I was just listening to his. But
Uh,
mom around my mom, she listened to everything, even though we was um, going to church. I wouldn't say my mom was like started off, even to this day, even though she's like Christian, she was never like super heavy in the
strict.
church like that. Oh, she got into the church heavy because I started to sing on everybody's choir in Philly. At a certain point, I was just in the church scene in Philly. So my mom was like, she became Joe Jackson after that.
You have one sibling?
Two siblings
You're
on
from
my
Philadelphia, so I know some are on the books and off the books. So,
yeah, like from my mother, there's my older brother and my younger sister. But my
okay.
pops is I got a few brothers and sisters.
All right. But in general, and I guess you can even count your cousins as whatever. I had cousins that were just as close to me as siblings.
Hmm.
Uh, was it pretty clear cut that you had a gift that was beyond what the other kids of your ilk or age had?
Yeah. I would say from early on, like soon as I started to get in and on the choir, by the time I was 10, I was directing the choir.
Yikes.
So I was like, like,
How did you discover you had this voice? Were you just always crying? Was someone notating a note to you? Like,
um, I don't know. I just became apparent in church that I could like, I guess I could really sing or like do leads and stuff when I was good. But before then, I don't know. I was just always the weird one. Like I would say my little sister's a musician, and my brother he does he's just I would say gifted, but I don't know. I was always called like the weird cousin, I guess.
often, especially in the 70s and 80s, um, in the 70s and 80s, at least my observation and my personal experience, um, usually, you know, if you display a gift, you're automatically ostracized. Um, and depending on um, your kind of your capacity to withstand attention, um, it's sort of up in the air of how it develops. Like for me, I would pretty much say like up until the age of 7, I was a well-rounded artistic person. Like first of all, like before they taught me to play drums, I had to learn to tap dance and
Mm.
like all this other stuff.
You
But
too, Bill?
I'd noticed that when it came to singing, yeah, I could tap my ass off. Like I was like,
No,
Wow,
me and
that's
Bill were
killing.
me and Bill were shaking our hands because us too.
Yeah, killing it.
oh,
Tap dancing.
really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is that I could sing, but then, just because I got relentlessly ostracized for artistic ability, I tried to squash it, or as we say today, like you dim your light.
Hmm.
So I think the one thing that I sacrificed on the altar was my singing voice, which I believe that I could have been probably singing would have been my North Star, but I was like, okay, I got drums well, but I think by 8, I psychologically killed my voice. I mean, I could hold a tune, but for you, like, did you because like being the oddball cousin or the black sheep, like I was instantly that person in my family.
Hmm.
How did you handle it? Or were you just like break out in song and I don't give a fuck. I can sing.
Well, I don't know. I just did. It was my cousins. Everybody kind of did like my brothers. The thing was to be able to dance real good, and I couldn't dance. I sucked. I could never like really dance well. So my brothers were the superstars because they could fucking dance all the dances, the running man, the wop. Like they would go to the parties and kill it, and I would always like clam up. So it's like the only time people even knew I could do anything was when we was in church. Like that's when I would shine. But when we would go out and we was just kids, like it never really stood out. I could never really get it out. Or if somebody would be like, hey, sing for me, I couldn't like do it like if it's just us, like as kids. But like even when like a song would come on, I had aunts that would just be like, "Go ahead, boy, sing, go dance." You know what I mean? Do it, do it. And I would even clam up in front of them. But my brothers would push me to the side and do all the moves. They could sing, do all the Michael Jackson shit. I was always shy. I don't know. It could only come out when it was like a real audience, and then I was just like, I felt like I was pretending or like escaping, even though I was doing it.
Would
Like,
they do things like normal, like the Aretha Franklin thing? Like they would wake her up at 3 in the morning, be like, Aretha, sing something. Like, was it that type of family? It was like, what was your go to song that you would sing if adults made you, hey, sing something, Bilal, like
it would be like some Michael Jackson shit, you know.
from 4 to 7 or 8? Who were your North Stars?
4 to 7. Trying to think back that far. Wow. I think by then I was just listening to pop music shit. Like I was just watching MTV and you know whatever was on TV. You know, I didn't really have like I would say Michael Jackson and Prince. You know,
Okay.
or like whatever. I wasn't really. I wouldn't say I was like so into music until like it really didn't hit me until I would say like around 7. But by then I was like deep in the church, like you know, singing on choir. Like by the time I got to 10 years old, I think that's fifth grade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time I went to fifth grade, I had started to go to a Catholic school, and so I was just that was it.
That
I,
sounds like
I
a lot.
went to I went to St. Malachy's right over there by Bright Hope Baptist Church, and I had this lady come into my life, Mother Brown. And Mother Brown, she was the one that was like, this motherfucker can sing.
Yeah, I was like, who is this person?
Like, 10 years old,
Do
like
you
I
remember?
was
Wait, Bilal.
directing the choir, teaching them songs and shit. Da, da, da.
Wait,
But I didn't think nothing of it.
oh wait, you
I
preaching? I'm
was
sorry. I
trying to
just
show
gotta
off.
ask. At 10 years old, you're a youth minister. Do you remember some of your subject, your youth ministry? Do you remember what you preached on?
Oh my gosh.
Come on, please.
Obey your parents.
No, I don't know. I was just trying to work it all up to the part where you get to do the bluesy part. Do you wanna hang around? And the organ gotta join in.
So if social media was out then, you would have been like one of these kids that I would have been liking their
Hell
videos.
yeah.
Like, is there any documentation of you pre-10 like on tape or
Yo, yeah, I was just at a concert the other day. I played at the Kimball Center with Orrin Evans, a big band, and a lady came backstage and was like, "Yo, I got a videotape of you. I think you like 9 years old or younger, singing at some church. You was like sound just like you do now." I was like, "I need to fucking get that tape." She was like, "It's so hilarious."
yeah, I was going to say there's so the way that I think I first heard of you, uh there was a girl that I was seeing and she might have graduated Kappa before your time and maybe her younger sister went there, whatever the case was. um this is about the point when I had your demo and I was playing it in her car and never one to like, you know, people love their opportunity to dunk on me, like if I don't know something about music.
Mm-hmm.
And her dunk was like, I know that Bilal. And the next week she brought in a cassette of you singing back when you were like 10 years old or whatever. And the thing was that there wasn't a difference in, I was like, there's no way you're telling me this person's 10, 11 years old. Like he sounds like a fully formed range. Like I hear 3 to 4 octaves already. And she was like, yes, he goes to my church. I wish I remembered her name, but
Good for you,
like,
Ahmir.
Oh, poor girl.
oh, I wish I remembered her name.
Don't say it again. Don't say it again.
Yeah.
For you, was there any other option? Did you have any other desire to do something in life besides singing?
Yeah, I wanted to be an architect. I liked to draw cars when I was a little kid, so I wanted to be some type of like builder. But it was always creative on a creative side. But yeah, I wanted to make cars.
Okay.
So wait, we're in high school. So Bilal, you are a Kappa kid? I didn't know that was. I didn't know you were a Kappa kid. Okay,
Kappa.
okay.
What was your period?
94 to 97.
All right, so you kind of
So I'm
after
like
Angela Nissel.
yeah, I'm like right when Mr. King was about to retire.
Ah,
So like like the year I graduated the year before they went to that new building. I was the last class in the old building.
oh, yo, okay. Bilal, what was the first creative project that you worked on outside of the church?
I broke out of church. Like I started breaking out of church in high school. Not to mention my pops always fucking hated the fact
I
that
was
I
about to say, when did your daddy be like, "This is
my
enough"?
dad my dad always hated the fact that I was going to church. And my dad's best friend is um Ben, Mr. Ben Bynum from down
Shut
at the
up.
What?
yeah, the whole Zanzibar shit. Grew up in there
And
as a
So you
kid.
grew up in Wilhelmina's, and
Yeah, when Wilhelmina's used to be Zanzibar Blue, I grew up in that one when it was like two different floors and shit. But my dad used to take me there to just kind of get me out of the whole going to church shit because he just always felt like that was just not the thing. Like,
Right.
you know. So he wanted me to see jazz. He was like, "This is music. That shit's just hollering and holler." But then he would wind up calling some of the up cats at Zanzibar. Oh, they up there hollering. He hated hollering. If you to this day, my pops has never been in not one of my concerts. Like I
what?
don't think he ever, never.
Did
Like
you
my
holler too
dad never
much?
really
Wait, does your
supported what
dad
I
not
was
know what
doing.
you do?
He knows what I do, but he ain't never heard the shit. Or I ain't
Is
never seen him at a concert ever.
Are
Never.
you fine with it?
My pops is a well eccentric guy like me, so whatever he does, I'm just like, that's what he does.
Okay.
I remember one time my pop was so pissed at me singing in church, he had literally came in the church and like I was singing and took the mic and picked me up like, and my mom was like, "No, Melvin, no," and my pop was like, "My son ain't gonna be gay. My son ain't gonna be gay." It was the other church. I'm like, ah, it was embarrassing, man. Like, I think the keyboard player from Philly, Michi, was the playing. It was like, it was a man. It was like one of those workshop type things where you gotta pay to be in it. And my mom, so high school, my pops was very happy that I had met these cats, and so I went to Philadelphia Clef Club High School because
Oh, okay.
all of my friends went to the Clef Club. Jalil Shaw, George Burton, the Lowry brothers. They all told me if I wanted to hang with them, I needed to learn jazz theory and I needed to learn chords and play piano because they didn't want to hear me sing. So I went to Clef Club to learn piano and chords and shit.
And at the
wait,
time
is
was the instructor was
Love it,
um
Hans.
yeah, Love it Hines. Okay. He was my instructor too. It's weird you said that because, you know, I think I think because we as a people have a hard time expressing emotions, that there's such a vulnerability in singing that there's a certain level of generational people that feel like singing is such a soft. We love Smokey Robinson. We
James
love Prince.
Brown.
Yeah, but it's yeah. I was going to say there was a maybe I kind of sense that too. Like, because I definitely know that there was a period between like 74 and 84 where like if you sang, then you were just ridiculed. Like, you know, like you couldn't have a beautiful voice and survive in the hood. Like, oh, you soft because you sing beautiful.
But
Which
it's crazy because that wasn't how it was in our parents' time. In our parents' time, they were singing doo-wop and
Yeah.
bebop on the
Yeah.
corner and stuff. So something happened, a disconnect. That's it's
I
weird.
just
The
think art.
hardest singers was Jodeci. That was it.
Right. Well,
That's the
but
hardest singer group.
and then us learning that Jodeci was really Boys to Men in real life, like the because boy, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So in school, did you
Boys to Men was Jodeci. I'm sorry, Dave was Jodeci.
in school were you trying to start like groups with people, or were you just like,
Oh yeah. I went through phases. Like my my freshman year, I was in a singing group. It was a gospel group with um with the singers. I was like hardcore in the singer in the vocal department, like singing with everybody. This is the same shit you were saying. Like cats breaking out singing in ups, in the hallway and shit. And I was in a
right?
gospel group, and I think I switched sophomore year, and I started trying to be in a jazz group. So I started going to jam sessions, and so I got my first gig as a vocalist on Orrin Evans' band at
Okay.
the Blue Note, or the Blue Moon. It was this club called the Blue Moon in Philly, and he used to do gigs. He had just graduated, but he would hire, he would still hire cats from that was still in high school. So I went and I played in his band. Like I did like one or two gigs then, and I shortly after that started trying to like make my own band, but it was like a jazz trio. Like I from there I got the jazz bug. Like I didn't even want to sing no other style of music until like maybe I got signed.
You got signed not singing no R&B pop music. You got signed singing.
No, when I first met in Tune, I was in a singing group because I was in a singing group in high school. My cousin dated Damu, M. Tune's son,
Son, yeah.
and she would always talk about me to him. And at the time, they was doing that show, uh,
New York Undercover?
New York Undercover,
They was the music.
and
They were the Natalie's.
yeah, and they would do the music stuff. So it got out that Tunes was looking for a group. So I put a group together just to go up there, and Tunes didn't like the cats, but he liked my voice. So that was like the second time I put a group together, and I think I put another group together to try and win a competition once, but
Okay.
it was like a
So
jazz band.
I gotta get to the moment where I discover you and I forget.
Ahmir, you say human saxophone. That was a part of the story. I remember you told me that. That wasn't this a part of the story too? The human saxophone thing?
No, like the so I don't know if it was James. I believe James got me uh he handed me a cassette,
Hmm.
and for him, besides the fact that he knew Bilal's voice was going to blow my mind, there was
Hmm.
one thing that was slightly more mind blowing about this cassette I was listening to. And Bilal's voice was the second thing that was mind blowing. The first thing he said to me was like, dude, the motherfucker from the Spin Doctors co-produced this. And he put it on. And I was like, wait a minute. You trying to tell me the band that does stupid, just go ahead now. That's Spin Doctors.
Shit's a jam.
Mhm.
And he's like, yeah, that's Spin Doctors. It was almost like it was a party trick. I was like, yo, listen to this demo. Guess who produced this? And they just run out of shit. And, you know, they would figure like, oh, is some D'Angelo's working on this new group and did it. And I was like, yo, dude, the Spin Doctors produced this. And then it was like, well, who's that singer? So
What's the song?
next to Slum Village's fantastic demo, Bilal was in second place for like the demo I would just make people listen to 24/7. And then like, guess who produced this? And then it went to like, hey, make me a copy, make me a copy. So can you tell the story of how that demo came to be and how that just started making the rounds?
I met Aaron at the new school. He
Okay.
was doing he played
Aaron Corness, right?
in Aaron Coleman's.
Yeah, yeah.
He was going to the new school because he had came back to like get he wanted to get his jazz chops better. Like he wanted to get this he always wanted to go back to school to get, you know, higher learn or whatever. He was playing at this jam. He got hired by the guy that started our school. His name is slipping my mind. I don't know why. But he started the new school. He passed away recently, but he would get students to play a gig at this club down, I think in Alphabet City. It's probably not there no more, called the Sidewalk Cafe or some shit like that.
Okay.
But our gig started at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we would play from 2 to 5. This was back when
Real New
jazz
York.
clubs stayed open like ever, you know. And the only cats I would see at these shits was like, ironically enough, was like Roy Hargrove. Roy Hargrove never went to sleep. He would go to every jam session, always playing. Right. But he hired me, Rob, and Aaron Coleman, and I forget who was playing bass. But me and Rob couldn't never stay up. And when Rob got a girl, I think Rob started dating a girl, and he would wind up meeting us there. But when I met we could never stay up to get to the gig. So we would either go to a bunch of other clubs until it was time for us to play, or we would I don't know. I
And,
don't know how I would make this gig, but
and this
we
is
found
coming
out.
from Philadelphia, or like you're a
No,
student
no,
at
no,
the new
no.
school?
Student at the new school. So I lived in Brooklyn, and everybody else stayed at the dorm. So I didn't like to go all the way to Brooklyn. So I winded up staying at the dorm at Rob's dorm, because I think the dude that he shared the room with was on some type of MTV show, MT Road Rules or some shit like that. He had got accepted to do that, so he was never at school. He was a superstar. So we would just hang at Rob's spot, and I forget the cat's name, but we found out that Aaron had a full blown studio at his house in the basement. And we started hanging out there till it was time to go do that gig. And when I found out that he had that shit in there, I used to go to the practice rooms at school and
That's
just
cool.
write little ideas to try and record at his studio. And that's where that demo came from.
So as far as
Y'all, what's the songs on the demo? You said, I know you
I
said
was
who
going to
did.
say, as far as I know, I believe that When Will You Call and Queen of Sanity are those actual demos. I know that James and I
Love
replayed the
Poem.
drums and the keyboards for Queen of Sanity, but that vocal take is from that actual demo, correct?
Yep.
So here's the thing, like instantly when I hear that first verse, like you kind of displayed a nuanced range of singing that, especially during that time period, um, a lot of R&B singing was sort of post Stevie Wonder. Like Stevie Wonder begats Charlie Wilson, who begats uh, 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 Aaron Hall, who begats R. Kelly, who begats Casey and JoJo. Like this level of oh type of post Stevie. I call it like
I
R&B
know
singing,
exactly what you're talking about.
of which you really didn't approach that. And not since Prince have I heard a primitive screamer on a record, like doing it in a way that wasn't like HR from Bad Brains or like punk rock related. And yeah, just like, so is anyone, M2May or whoever is in authority, is anyone like telling you like, hey, tone it down a little bit? Like, why don't you just sing nuanced and disciplined and leave all that crazy stuff, because that's not going to get you a hit. Like, what are people telling you during this phase before you figure out who you really are before your first album comes out?
Um, I was always told to dumb it down, even as a little kid. So I just was just like, I never really knew how to dumb shit down. But I think around this phase, it was just they were trying a lot of things. It was mostly them getting me to learn songwriting with other people, and then it was me trying to always fit what I was learning at school into a modern thing, you know, because I always wanted to get signed to Blue Note or something for singing jazz, but it became a discussion of, dude, it's mad old people in the audience. Like, we ain't gonna never get chicks being jazz. It's like, this sucks. Like, and literally, we used to go to y'all's jam session that y'all used to do at the wetlands and come back. And we would see cats like Kareem Riggins there. We'd be like, see, now that's the jazz we need to fucking do. See, we always considered what y'all was doing as jazz. So we'd be like, that's the
Yeah, man.
shit.
A lot of
Like, we
people.
need to do some shit more in that kind of fucking vein, but and add our chord changes and shit, because we just gonna be dating old chicks for the rest of our lives. Like, we gotta be modern. Like, we gotta go the Herbie Hancock route. Like, you know what I mean? So
Right. Okay.
kind of like shifted everything to where I was like, we got Aaron Studio less experiment, you know.
What's the path that leads to your actual record deal? Like, how many labels did you see? How many uh
Um,
showcases did you have to do? How many close but no cigars?
I wanted to get signed to Peter Massenberg because I always felt like, I didn't think we was doing neo soul, but I was like, that feels like the type of
Left to
shit
center.
that we want to do, and I always felt like that would be a way to kind of infuse our jazz shit,
Modernize it a little bit, but still keep it at heart. Yeah.
Right, right, right. It was like we could fit it in, and then we would start to notice like samples, and be like, "Yo, that's the actual." They sampled the actual album that we love. Like, that's the actual jazz. I know that song, so I always saw what y'all was doing as like the gateway into like still being a jazz musician in the vein of that, but being more modern and kind of really like growing. And then once I met y'all, I was like, man, this I can infuse things more and kind of take it to a different level to where I don't even think of myself as a jazz musician anymore. It's just music, you know what I mean? But it was a whole catalyst from going to them jam sessions at Wilhelmina's and Wetlands.
All right, when I DJ, I don't look at the audience, and I
Mhm.
think that, it's like there's somewhat of a fear because I know that I'm doing something different, and my whole thing is like, force you to my will, to my side of the street. I'm not going to play what's on radio, but I'm going to trick you into dancing to music that you might not know, but I'm going to make it sound good and artistic. Are you are you channeled into the energy of the audience? Because for me, it's one thing to see a Bilal show when I'm drumming with you, but
Mhm.
it's a whole nother. I feel like the very first time I saw a Bilal show in terms of to see how he does in the world, it was a teachable lesson. So do you remember the run that you did? You and Music Soul Child did
Mhm.
a series of shows together. Um, like in
Mhm.
2000, slightly before your album came out, he was pretty much established by then.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, and for me, I was there and I was really excited to see like how would a quasi mainstream audience take to you? And I can say this in hindsight 25 years later, like much to my chagrin, they were frozen and it was so jarring to them that like I was trying to figure out like, well, wait, how come they didn't get the elation magic I felt when I first heard his voice? And then I started like, oh man, people are just dumb. They don't know what real art is, and da da da. They just want the hits. Like I was in a mind state of really not understanding subculture, mainstream, and all. You can't do what I did for at least the first 10 years and really have a knowledge of the science of it all.
Because the flip side was too, Amir. I remember those shows, and the flip side was too, from an artist perspective, it seemed like, and I don't know how to say this politically correctly, so I'm gonna just say what it felt like. It felt like music was a little intimidated.
I knew he respected it, but it was all for me. I was
Right.
more mad that the audience didn't instantaneously have the same reaction I did, and it made me doubt myself. Like,
It was a shock, but still not like it was bad. It was just like, whoa, whoa.
but with you though, and I seen like four of those shows in a row, like during that month. Either we were like on the same circuit, or you just did a lot of shows in LA. And each show, you would get even more intense, more like you didn't shy away from it. Whereas like I would have instantly chicken shitted and brought it down. Like, oh, okay, they don't feel it. Let me sneak this on you. And your reaction was the exact opposite. Like, oh, really? Now I'm gonna really show y'all motherfuckers what's up. And it, so like in your mind, how aware are you, or can I ask, sort of in hindsight, did you have a conscious fear of rejection, and your main reaction is, well, let me triple down on this shit and show y'all, because I was Michael Jackson popcorn GIF all day. Like the crazier you are, the more I love it. Like, oh my god, he's this is the greatest
Mhm.
shit ever. But what was in your head at that time period?
I didn't really understand I came from just straight, just being an artist, and I thought if I don't get an applause, as long as I get a shot, it's it don't matter, you know. So I was
So
like,
any reaction's better than no reaction.
yeah, it's like but I looked at it like, oh man, they fucked up.
And that's what it was. That's exactly what it was.
But I don't know. I always I was always like looked at as, oh man, this shit is out. Even when I was in the choir, like I I would lose solos because cats would be like, yo, sing it the straight way. I've never sang shit the straight way. You know, I'm used to just doing shit, and even at church, to up to them where people get like, what the fuck? And even singing jazz, I was scatting more so than even singing. So I was always looked at. I always saw that face.
You always been a
Like,
proud weirdo, like, and I love that because I
and
am.
I always looked out the audience and saw this, like, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I was like, they get it. I guess I misconstrued to a
You
certain
affected
point. I
them.
started thinking that was the smile.
That was the
It was on the inside. Is that insulting to say that you always been a proud weirdo to me? Like, because I'm a weirdo too in a way. So
Yeah,
I'll
I
be the
embraced
weirdo.
it.
yeah, yeah, fuck it. Like you want it anyway. They just don't know what they want.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know, the I always liked the black sheeps or the cats that was being out. Like I remember reading Miles Davis books and him being like, man, I just got to a point. I was like, fuck it, and I just was doing the whole show with my ass to the crowd. Fuck this shit, like you know what I mean. So I guess I could get into it. Sometimes I can get into a place like, yeah, fuck this shit, and go inside and perform. You know.
Is there a memory of a show in which you might have felt you took it too far that you recall?
And when you sing it with
Um,
Jag,
Oh yeah,
because them
man.
shows
Jag
right
time
there.
singing with fucking Jag. Oh my god. That's just Jag. Jag will go. She was a shock jock too. So it was like almost trying to see in my head, I was like, oh, let me see how far she'll go. Then I guess in her mind, she's like, let me see how far he'll go. So it was like, oh shit.
Is it gonna be poetry?
No, I mean, and shout out to all of them,
Yeah,
especially I remember coming home from tour, honest to God, and frightened of Fatine in Asia. Like
yeah.
somehow
They
they
have to
whooped
be there.
they whooped that Toy Story band into shape the summer
Mhm.
of 2001. Like and then it was like, oh shit, we gotta come. I remember having a conversation with the Roots, like, um, the last 10 minutes of their show, we gotta get to that level and shit. Like, so I was feeling the
Mhm.
pressure, but would you often go, especially during the period between 97 and 2005 when like these jam sessions are happening? Are you thinking in terms of like,
World dominate.
battle, or just like it's how you feel at that moment?
Um, I just know I wanted to get up there and make a statement. Like, you know what I'm saying? I knew that. I was like, oh man, I hope I get up there tonight. Like I had that feeling like like
Okay.
like
John
a,
Legend told me that. So John Legend, back when he's John Stevens, not knowing he was in the audience for a majority of these jam sessions, would basically just say that whenever Bilal would come on, then it'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it next week.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come back next week. I'll come
Mm-hmm.
back next.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come back. One of my favorite moments of yours is in Dallas, where we're doing Erica's birthday,
oh yeah.
and yo, I look. This is a very old reference, but if our listeners could pause the podcast and go to YouTube and watch Ralph Carter aka Michael Evans of Good Times fame,
Oh,
sing "When You're Young and in Love" at the at a rent party for Helen on 227.
well, no.
Um, and every line, James Evans is in the audience, like, "That's my boy. That's my, like that person." Nothing made me, because the way that Prince would often enter our lives, by this point in his 30th year, Prince knows the myth of Prince is a thing. And, he would just appear out of nowhere. And I knew he was there simply because I know the size of his bodyguard. So even though you're watching silhouettes, there's a point where, Prince enters the nightclub, and in my head, I'm looking at James like, yeah, we about to show him what's up. And I'm looking based on where Prince is sitting. I can see the bodyguards way in the back. And Omar just finished singing. And I think Omar did Little Boy Saturdays, and he did a cover of Golden Brown. And then Bilal comes up, and we started with, I knew I wanted to start with Soul Sister first, and then warm him up. And then I knew when Sometimes comes, it's going to be on. And like, and sure enough, we did a very nuanced Soul Sister, and Prince is in the back watching, and then when we get to Sometimes,
Yeah, tell me.
dog, it's like Prince levitated and was in the front row. Now I know that game because he did it once to another singer
Oh,
where this other singer was given a concert in his hometown, and there was very strict instructions, like, like no distractions, no whatever. And Prince, knowing who the fuck he is, decides, I'm going to stand right in the wings
are you ready?
and watch you. And sure enough, the singer like looks to the left and gets paralyzed and literally freaks out, even though, he goes through the song and walks off stage, screams at the staff, like, get rid of him, that sort of thing.
What?
And I could tell when Prince was in the front row, I could tell like, this is a flex thing. But again, Bilal never cowers to any. He's one of the most fearless performers I know. And we've never done, like, my favorite version of Sometimes is still when we did the OK Player Christmas party at the box.
Ooh.
My second favorite version of Sometimes was always at Erica's 30th in front of Prince, him either showing his fandom, maybe
What did he do, Ahmir? Describe, what was he do? What did he do?
He was in the front row, and it was like without the bodyguards. And back in 2001, 2002, Prince wasn't like, let me just mix amongst the people and stand, you know what I mean? Like, he threw all that away and literally and I was wondering, like, why are you in the front row? Like, are you trying to intimidate us? Are you trying to? And Bilal didn't back down. He just went even crazier. And that was. Do you remember that moment at all?
I do. I don't remember the performance, but I remember coming off the stage and you coming over and saying, "Yeah, we got him," and you didn't even let him come up on stage, man. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, Prince was at the front, and you didn't even let him come up on stage. I think he wanted to come up and jam with us, and you just ignored him, bro. That was awesome, yo. I felt like shit. I was like, that was the one time I was too zoned out.
But I know you made up for it, though. I know you made up for it. I know y'all saw each other again.
Every time I
Wait a minute.
saw Prince, it was weird. Every
What?
time. Every
Wait.
time.
You could probably. I want you to tell this version of the story. All right, and I apologize, listeners. I know. I feel like this is a group discussion more than it is
No,
like.
it's not because Bilal did so much stuff after Prince died and stuff, and did a lot of performances and owed to him. So no, this is good. Please, I want to know.
Okay, so all right, one of my favorite moments, one of my favorite Prince stories is I believe Bilal's in town putting the finishing touches on Jimmy Was a Rock Star and Star 69 at Electric Lady for Common's Electric Circus album. And this back when it was just mammoth 24 hours, like, and Steve can also attest to this. Like, usually vocals, Common would do vocals like in the day, 11 a.m. to 3 or something. And then like I'll mosey in and James comes in, we'll work on some music. And then Colin thumbs up, thumbs down it, and we'll create the music at night, and then he'll work on the song in the day, write to it and all that stuff. So I knew that Bilal was doing his vocals. And we decided to take a dinner break. And it's 2002, so kind of this is the beginning of the notoriety of everything catching on. Like, we're no longer these unknown, obscure underground artists. Like, everyone's going gold and platinum. And with that, you get invited to industry events. So the first like major thing that we go to is somewhere like I think the Apollo Theater had a nightclub attached to it. And Kelly Clarkson and what's old boy's name with the bro? Justin
Guarini.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was like the first year of American Idol, and those two are kind of doing like a tour. I don't know what project they had. Was it Justin Love's?
They had a movie. Yeah.
They had a movie.
Clarkson, yeah, like they were there to promote something. And so they invited us to like come up to the Apollo and da 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 da. And we went there for a bit. And then it was me, Common, and Bilal. Steve, did you roll with us then?
To the
You
Apollo?
had to then roll. I think you were part of this.
Yeah, I hang out at the Apollo all the time. I mean,
But it wasn't the Apollo. It was like a club next to it, like Club Apollo. But whatever the case was, this was also the period in which Prince was knee deep in his Jehovah's Witness phase. And that's the Prince that I like to avoid, because he would do nothing but preach at you for hours. And so someone comes up and says, "Oh, Prince is on his way there." And that was literally like our check please moment. Like, I never thought I'd run away from my idol the way we did. Like, we had to literally calm me. Like, we were like, "Hey, let's get out of here," because he's just going to keep us here all night and talk about God. So let's go. So we snuck out. We snuck out the back, got back to Electric Lady Studios to start mixing Jimmy Was a Rock Star. And then the phone rings, brand new receptionist says, Ahmir, there's someone named Prince asking for Prince. And I was like, what? It's like someone named Prince asking for Prince. And I pick up the phone and he says, "Hello?" And I'm like, "Hello?" He says, "Prince." I said, "Huh?" "I'm speaking to Prince." I said, Ahmir means Prince. So he would always do that game with me. And he's like, "How long will you guys be down there?" And I'm like trying to think of a lie, but
We're leaving.
he makes yeah, but we were mixing the song, so I was like, "Yeah, we're here all night. Meet." So Prince shows up.
Did he knock?
And it's like 2:30 in the morning.
No.
Yeah, out of a puff of smoke, he shows up at 2:30 in the morning, and we're mixing Jimmy Was a Rock Star. It was a very, very intricate song. And we play it for him, and his mind is blown. Like, he gives us all the praise, and I'm like, wow, he really likes it. And by the way, Prince is on Star 69. He's playing keyboards all over it. So him and Common like had a really good relationship. Anyway, it's a point where he's like, I want to talk to you guys. And it's like, no, he's going to.
Dun dun dun.
It was a fourth person with us. But the only way I could describe it is if you Google the album cover to the Who's the Kids All Right, you know, they're all sleeping like on each other's shoulders. It became a religious battle. And all I remember was like Bilal was basically going toe to toe with Prince.
Oh yeah, because you got Islam,
About,
Christianity, Jehovah.
Oh,
Dude, me, Common, and whoever the third person is just sitting on the floor, sleep on each other's shoulders.
Good for you. Good for you.
I remember that.
And Bilal, and I just wake up occasionally, and Bilal and Prince are just. Do you remember like battling him at all? Like just with
I remember
theology?
that.
Like it was a 2-hour
He
conversation.
he was saying he had different takes on verses from the Bible, and I think I was just trying to relate to him, and I was like, oh, that's in the Quran too, and I was trying to have a conversation with him, but I don't think it was working out. And I just remember you keep going behind him. You kept going behind him and going,
Stop.
Dog.
Yes.
Well,
and I was like, I'm trying to stop. But he had a question. Oh, yeah. Well, what about this? And I would just be like,
oh my
I
God,
guess.
dog.
So what did that
It
do
was
for y'all? That's interesting because I'm like, that was a long time before he passed. So like y'all kept seeing each
Yeah.
other throughout the years. I mean, Amir, I know y'all did because y'all have a whole relationship. But what about you, Bilal and Prince? Like, how did that one conversation kind of evolve, or did it?
No, it was just like it evolved into, I think the way I broke out of it was I started asking him about his shoes because he had on dope ass white shoes that the zipper was diamonds. Like the zipper was full on diamond. It looked like a diamond ring, but the zipper was made out of
Yes,
diamonds. So I
sounds
just
like a very
started talking to him about that.
sounds like a very
And so
religious
he was,
man. Yeah.
yo, so, so I started talking about his
Wow.
boots, and then we kind of like skipped everything.
yeah.
But I think what stopped it? Did D'Angelo come in or something?
Hell no.
Something happened.
Well,
Something
no. I
happened.
said basically like Russell, because we were mixing Jimmy on 48 tracks, and it was very old school. Of course, now 25 years later, you can do everything on your computer. Things are remembered. But if you're working on like an old school SSL board, a guy like Steve it'll take him like 3 hours to notate everything that we did on the mix. Like you just can't go to the studio and be like, hey, put my song up. Like Steve will have to take, an hour to 2 hours of readjusting all of our
Yeah,
mixes.
sure. That's what I did.
Well, I mean, it's called recalling a mix, correct?
Correct. No, you're absolutely correct.
So
Yeah, and so
y'all mean to
just
tell
the
me
intro.
the fantasy of my whole like thought of Prince being like, oh, Bilal, I
Nah,
see you. You the net I can see, and
nah,
The
you got
only
your
thing he
nah.
said was "Yo, you're the black Beck. You remind me of Beck." And I was like, "Beck."
don't meet your
I remember
hero.
him saying,
Don't
and I
meet
was
your
like,
hero.
"Huh?"
Don't meet
And
Black
he
your
was like,
Beck.
"Yeah."
I
He
I
was
What?
like, "Beck, like you got it." He's like, "You got a little bit. You could go rock if you wanted. You could bring that sensibility into your
he said,
shit."
stay away from
I
my
think
shit.
that's what he. But I was like totally like Beck. He was like, "Yeah, you know your shit. You remind me of Beck." I was like, "I don't get that."
Look, man, Beck's my boy. I respect that. What were your expectations with Firstborn Second? Why did you name it Firstborn Second? And did you have expectations for it?
um, I named it Firstborn Second. That was my second name. I was just trying to do like a weird name because
Mm-hmm.
so I think it was called uh, uh, hot glass of or a cold glass of hellfire, and Tunes hated it. So I was like, I want something that's kind of double entendre or whatever. I don't even think that's what it was. I was just like, I want to be out, and he was like, but that don't even make sense. So then I'm my mom's second child. So I was like, this is my first album, second child.
Got it.
And he was like, that's weird, but all right, you know.
Was the title was the title track biographical? The closing song?
um,
I forgot about this one.
no, that was just some uh that was just some wild shit we was doing in the studio. And I don't know what it yeah, it was just some wild shit. It wasn't autobiography. It was
Okay.
just writing something wild, something strange. I guess we always had like a rock wildness to our shit.
Right. Okay. So this is where I become professional. I'm totally skipping the sometimes story because I don't think I could tell that
Yeah.
story better than I told it at the Glass House, live at the Glass House album. But
You did a good job. You left something out though, because I did hear you tell the story. Because I don't want you to skip the sometimes, just in the sense of like, since we talk
what
about
part
this.
did I skip?
No, you didn't skip nothing in the sense of how it came together. However, y'all did skip on the sense of like how this is the most beloved Bilal song, and like it never became a single off that album, and why that was a thing.
You know
It
what?
was almost a single.
When?
It was almost it was like the last uh shot. They wanted to make it a single before starting on a new album. I think it was his name that worked up
Steve
there,
Stout.
Steve Stout.
Yeah.
Steve Stout wanted to do a video, and he was like, we need to do a video on this." But I think
They picked Fast Lane, Bilal. I remember
they
being
picked
on
Fastlane
radio, and
instead.
I was like, "Is this really because of Dr. Dre?" Because this
Stout went on record to say on this podcast that he really regrets kind of how the ball got dropped with you because he felt that
oh
you
yeah,
were that supernova figure that really and I hate that whole could have been a contender talk because for a lot of artists that do get to the mountaintop, we see what happens to them. So I believe you are where
here,
you're
look at the
supposed to.
screen.
Mhm.
Oh, is
No.
He said, "Take the mute off." Tell us, Steve, take the mute off. Take the mute off, Steve. You
That was good,
but
wasn't it?
for you, from my perspective, when I did this record for him, I wanted to be a part of the filler cuts because I feel like but I feel that the mark of a great artist like Stevie Wonder, like Prince, I don't like the singles. Like
Yeah,
Prince
yeah.
singles, Delirious, Let's Go Crazy. Nah, I'm gonna listen to Dorothy Parker. Like for
a
me,
great tradition. Why the singles got? Why it gotta be that way? Like I've been screaming this to you for years about these singles. Like
Artists don't pick the single.
I feel
It was
like the
hardcore
mark
back
of a
then.
true artist is
wasn't
who
it?
has the best filler. Like, and to me, a lot of our favorite songs on this record.
The album, the radio songs were Fast Lane, Soul Sister, and Love It.
Mhm.
But we was on Queen of Sanity sometimes. When would you call? Like, why?
You're a different mind state, Laia.
No, I
You're
was working. I was working urban radio at the time, and I was like, "Y'all are not listening to the women. All the men are making songs, are making these decisions about
Well,
these."
I'm certain Dr.
well,
Dre had something to do with it in terms
yeah,
of
I'm saying that was Interscope Records. Like,
Yeah,
I, that's why I wanted to be signed to.
Kadar.
Initially, I wanted to be signed to Kadar because I wanted it. The core of the album was songs like that, and then the singles we did after everything was done. You know,
yeah.
I was happy to work with Dre though. So I didn't really have no complaints because it's Dr. Dre.
What was all right? So can you describe that process? Like, how do you meet Dr. Dre? How do you work with him? Like, what was it like?
It was polarizing. Like, one minute we just in Jimmy's office, and then the next day we riding up to like this place don't even look like a studio, and there's like some gate goes back, and it's like all these dope ass cars. We go in there, and that was the first time I saw that many speakers in the studio, and it was like six speakers, like six up, like it was like three at top, six, no, like three woofers at the bottom, and then he had the ones on the console, and he had every last speaker on, and I've never seen anybody turn the console all the way up to 11, and he turned it all the way up playing. I think Fastlane was the first joint we did, and it was the loudest shit I've ever heard in my life. But it nothing fit broke, nothing in the speakers crackled. It was amazing, but it was painful at the same time. I, he was the only one. That was when I noticed he was the only one in the studio that didn't have uh like like
Earbuds
some type of earbud in his
protection.
ear. Everybody that was working there had it. Like they knew what was up. But I didn't want to tell him to turn it down because that's Dr. Dre. So I was
Oh,
just
so he
like,
might have some real hearing loss issues. Okay.
he has to, because that was the loudest shit I've heard in my life. Like it was stadium loud, but in a small room. It was.
I, you know,
Soon we're gonna have hearing aids by Dre.
Right.
Right.
so okay, I will get murdered if I do not ask this question. Can you tell us where in the hell is the Love for Sale album? This is probably of all Soulquarian related projects, not related to is this the year that makes a record? Your fan base, I almost feel like you should never release Love for Sale or whatever because it's like the legend of it is more than what it will equal. But what is the story of Love for Sale just never coming out?
It's just tied up in a bunch of shit with Interscope and Moyo and Tunes Pass and Damu Pass, and that was their label. So it got shifted over to Faulu, who's the brother. And for a long time, I didn't even know where the files were, but I think Fa has the files now.
So right
I
now
think
the files are
he might have gotten the files from after the move passed. He got his hands on it or something, but
Damn,
I
it sounds
know
like we need to
Fa
talk.
has the files.
Boss seems like he
But
got his fingers on a lot of things because I'm like, man, those two pass all that history. He got to tell that history.
but the Interscope, I think Interscope owns it, but we have the files. We have the mix because everything was mixed.
do you
And
have a
then
do you have a desire to see it through or release it or
I did at one time, but then I just stopped. I mean, every time I put my mind into wanting to release it, it just kind of like doesn't work out. I was trying to get it. It had came up to try and release it again. I remember I was talking to Naeem from Universal, and that he said that there was maybe a interest, but I'm just on this thing where it happened and it happens. You know, it was already a lot of people claiming it and having claims to it anyway. So
right?
I just fucking, you know,
See,
it was so funny because while I was doing this shit, the people that want to hold on to it didn't like it.
I don't think I've heard it. So I was going to say what direction was it that do you think made it so jarring? Like people know what they're getting when they get with you, correct?
I would think, but I mean, around the time that I had started recording it, I was kind of full on, like, I think that was childhood phase I was in. Just, I was heavy in the drinking, just I wasn't the easiest to kind of work with. So I think that kind of lent itself to where it happened and why it never went out. And then towards the end, I just went on strike, showing up to make the album
Got it.
What year
Uh,
is
because the
this?
shit got bootlegged, and I was just like, you
What year
know,
is this, y'all?
Jew, Love for
it's a
Sale is 2003.
2003.
2003. There's I was going to say I just doing this last run of Detroit I did in the summer. Um to my pleasant surprise, heard like 5 to 6 other Jay Dilla collabs that I didn't realize that you did. Like,
Because Dilla was going to, I wanted to, they had agreed to let me produce half and then let Dilla produce the other half. But then Dilla started getting sick. And I was going out there to Detroit. We was working heavy. Yeah. That was my vision for the record, to have Dilla like executive produce, but just let me get my shit off and then him come in and kind of like dial it back. Cause I was like, I'd let Dilla dial it back because it'll still be a little bit out. And then he had brought James in, so I was like, it's in good hands. But then he had started to get sick, so that kind of threw me into a loop, and I started drinking more, just upset and shit, and then just arguing with everybody about it, and just trying to keep the vision of what I wanted alive, but like not knowing how to finish his tunes. So, and Dilla has started making some out shit for me to do, and like he did this one track, I just didn't even know how to put it together because it was so out.
oh, the count.
And
I know exactly what you're talking
I
about.
was like, he's the only one that can fucking help me. Like, what am I gonna do? Like,
Yeah, I didn't know where he programmed it in his NBC, and I didn't know where the one was. And it's
yeah,
such a
I
common
had no
count.
idea.
Yeah,
And he would be like, yo, you can't understand this, it's right here. And he would have
right.
to be in the booth like, and one. And I'd be like, I got it. So like when he passed, I was like, that's it, I'm lost. The fuck? I hear that
So,
beat to this day because randomly, I don't know who played that beat for me. I think it
me,
was
I found
Faulu.
that
So,
beat,
oh,
and to this day, I don't know where the one is, and I'm the king of berating someone for not knowing where the one is. And
yeah.
yeah, so for you now, and I guess that this could also tie into with I Love Surreal and also Airtight and in Another Life, like this period, especially you kind of leaving the M2MA organization and whatnot, and like how did you manage to kind of on your own figure out how to navigate with you kind of at the what I assume is the driver's seat, whereas you would have a team and management and people to make decisions for you. But as an indie artist, like, can you talk about that period, at least the decade between like 2010 and uh kind of now? Like, what were your basic plans like in terms of getting your art
Um,
out there?
I didn't really have a plan. Like I had went just for a long time after that album got bootleg, and I didn't have a plan. I was just like hanging out at my girl's house, making shit up on GarageBand, and not really knowing what was going on. Like trying to, if I was still signed, if I wasn't signed, if I was able to kind of get a record deal. People that I had fell out of contact with the Entumes, so I didn't know what the hell was going on, and my boy Steve McKee, he was building a studio in Philly. So I just started going there. He was I started going there because he knew, like, whenever we would do shows, I would just be in my hotel room making beats on my garage band.
Garage
And
band.
so he was just like, I got the studio, play me the shit that you've been doing on your garage band. And I played him the shit, and that turned into Airtight's Revenge. But I was just making shit up on my computer, just waiting around to know when we could get back in. And then, the deal, all that shit fell apart. So I was kind of like self-conscious, but I just, I can go into my head and just entertain myself at any point. So like, that's what I just did. And then from doing that, I started hanging out and I, I, I became friends with Cyrock Creative Partners,
Mm-hmm.
working on their stuff. And Shafiq was introduced me to Andrew Maharo, who works with Adrian Young now, but he
Mm-hmm.
had this small label that he was putting Shafiq's records out through. And Shafiq, I was like, man, your shit is funky, but it's electronic, and they're letting you do whatever you want. And we was hanging out with Flying Lotus and just that whole crew. I was like, y'all remind me of the New York crew, but out here in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And the Plug Research cast was like, yo, we'll sign what you're doing. And I had the shit that I was, the shit I was just working out on at Steve's studio, and they dug it. So I was like, I don't know if I'm still signed. I don't know if I can put shit out or whatever, but fuck it, let's get sued so we can find out where I'm at.
So what happened? Like,
It's a good business plan.
well, nothing
no,
happened, right? You
no, nothing happened. So it was like, oh, then let's
got
just
it.
keep going.
So for a lot of people, especially Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they
The new ones?
Yeah, is that the new
kind
thing?
of say it again.
Ahmir? Is that the new ones? Who the alphas?
Gen Alpha. You got to start back after Gen Z. You got to start to the letter A. Yeah, the new ones.
Wow.
Your work with Kendrick Lamar is kind of
Mm-hmm.
their introduction or your reintroduction. What was like? How deep involved were you with To Pimp a Butterfly? Like, were you guys just always? Was it like a second coming of Soquarians where you're just always on standby, or were you there to just specifically work for one song?
Yeah, I just came to the first. I did like a few sessions, but um, I came in at the last half of the record. Like they already Font Leroy had already wrote the chorus and kind of for that song, These Walls. I just came in to do that.
Mhm.
And I kind of recorded it so fast that uh, Kendrick was like, "Oh, well, throw this up, put this up, put this up. Let me see what you would do." And it kind of just turned into that. And
Was he familiar with
and
you, or was it just like AR Boys things? Like, how much did he know about you?
no, he was familiar. He had wanted me to be on the first album, but I don't know what happened. It didn't work out in time.
Mhm.
And so we had always said that we wanted to, because he's cool with the whole Sarab Creative Partners
Right.
crew. So I knew him from then, and then Fly Low, and of course Thundercat. So and Terrence Martin, like those are all my cats. I've known them for
But
years.
you're
So
also, but Bilal, they're senior in a way. Do they recognize you in a way of like, yo, fucking Bilal? In that sense, because you're older, a couple of years older than these folks, right?
not Sarab
Oh, not Cyron.
Creative Part
Cyron.
Sarab.
I'm
No.
talking about Kendrick, about Fauntleroy.
Kendrick and yeah.
I'm you know,
Yeah, ironically, those cats, they thought I was their age. I don't know.
I can
But
see.
I was just
Of course.
saying.
Well,
I
you're
mean,
youngish. Like even
you
now,
are.
like
You
you
are.
look the same way you did. Mine's the dreadlocks. Like this is like talking to you back in the day. So
And being a weirdo keep you fresh and open to new things. So that keeps you young too.
Yeah, I guess so. Like
so
I'll just find myself around young.
so now that you're kind of uh in a space where like your level of artistry, and I'm talking about like even the stuff that's happening in Australia right now, like with like like hiatus coyote and
Oh
like
yeah.
all those, like, do you now feel as though the world has caught up to you and you're able to, like, for you, what's where's your market at? Like, what marketplace embraces you the most?
I still don't know. I
I
still
like you,
don't know,
Bilal.
man.
You're a pure artist, like, and I think it's important to
Because
not.
every tour, different audience shows up. It's weird. Like we just,
No, that's a blessing
we
right there.
just,
Beautiful blessing.
we still get the cats that show up that want to hear the first album, you
You
know.
get. I
Mhm.
was about to say you
But
still get
now
sometimes
we're
yelled at.
getting more and more like cats that want to hear the newer stuff, and they don't necessarily look like the first album audience per se, you know.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a mix. I never know. If I knew, I would be probably further along.
Kimber told me that well, the way that radio is in Australia, like the way that your radio show was, Laia,
Yeah.
that is actually mainstream radio in Australia, which really explains.
Oh, like specialty shows.
Well, yeah, but the thing is like over in Australia, you can still hear Bilal, and then they'll put on Sabrina Carpenter, and then they'll put on, like Charlie XCX, and then they'll put on Hiatus
They ain't got
Coyote.
no
Like
rhyme or reason. They just
you've done so much work with so many other people. I gotta ask you about like some of our favorites. Um, one of the last complete albums of a hip hop group that I totally love was Hell Hath No Fury, and you know, I didn't look on the credits to know that you were singing on Nightmares. I just heard your voice. Like, wait a minute, that's
Hmm.
Bilal. How did you hook up with the clips for Hell Hath No Fury
I was down there working on my record. They wanted me.
with the Neptunes?
Yeah, I went through this. I went through a phase of
You got a
Interpol where
Neptune
they had
short?
me working with everybody. But
oh
it
back
was at
then.
the so it was right after he did the record for Justin Timberlake, and he was doing just banger after banger, and so every time I would get into a room with cats on that level, they were trying to get Pharrell to do like a just save the project of Love for Sale with, one of those Justin
Oh,
Timberlake style
oh
beats. And
my
I was like,
God.
no, this is not gonna work. And
Yeah.
Pharrell had already had, he already had his plan, from I guess the conversation he had with Jimmy or whatever, but it was like, nah, I'm not doing none of the weird shit until we do this. So
Yeah, talk about your working relationship with Beyonce.
And the Fighting Temptations collaborations of it all.
Oh, that was dope. I think she asked for me to be a part of that. So that was dope. I didn't even I think they had in mind for it to be something else, but she like specifically asked for me to join that joint, which is dope. I
Yep.
think I always thought she was ill and just such a student of the music, you know what I mean?
Did y'all get that
somewhere.
in the studio together when y'all recorded it together?
Yeah. She was there with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. They wrote the song. So we all was in the studio working on it. That was a learning experience too.
Awesome.
Because they are very like particular
And
about what they
disciplined.
want. Very particular. And I'm like, I half the time don't know what I'm doing. I like to make what I call beautiful mistakes. And they're like, no,
Ain't nothing beautiful about a
you
mistake,
gotta
right?
do it like, yeah, you gotta do it like this, or And every time they would tell me to do something, I would do it different. Like I wouldn't even know what I'm doing. And they're
Right.
like, do that again. I'm like, I don't know. Did you record
Can
it?
I hear
What
it?
what was one of the hardest sessions you had to do?
That was probably one of the hardest sessions.
Oh.
I mean, because you know, Beyonce's like a professional in the studio. She's got her studio technique is ill. I mean, she can knock shit out, knows, all right, put this, I'm gonna do this, double it. And I was just in there, like I said, making beautiful mistakes. So everybody was just like, nah.
I bet she
Got that.
appreciated
Didn't Jermaine Dupri produce you on Jay's Fallen?
Yup. Yeah.
How did
it.
that come to be?
That was just a
It's on
random.
American Gangster.
Yeah, that was a
Never
random
been out
phone
on American
call.
Game.
It was a random phone call. Um, and it was like, "Hello, is this Bilal? Jay-Z would like for you to come to the studio, and this is the address." And then randomly, I got there, and it was like some random building. You go up, and
Oh,
Jay-Z and Beyonce was in the studio waiting for me. Like, hello. I was like, what? It was like being summoned by the president or something.
Oh, did it? I
yeah.
wonder if Beyonce put the bug in his ear, like Bilal would be.
I don't
Well,
know, maybe, but when I got there, he knew everything he wanted me to do. He knew what he was looking for me to do. I was like,
didn't
man, I didn't even know you like knew about my shit like that. But
wait a minute. Did I not use you once for any of those Jay
yeah,
gigs?
the
Like,
Carnegie Hall shit.
yeah, I was
Hmm.
about to say. I think you came aboard for Carnegie Hall. Um.
But
Oh.
I think this was before that.
Okay. Okay.
I
It
think
was
the Carnegie Hall thing happened after that.
slightly before it, but I definitely remember he asked for you. I know for a fact that those two were big ass fans of yours. Dude. Okay. Because we in this politically charged time that we live in, uh, did you have any clue whatsoever at the time? And I know the answer is no, but at the time when you're recording Master Teacher
Mm.
with its infamous hook, I Stay Woke, did you have any idea about how you singing that hook would wind up almost being like kind of the zeitgeist of where we are right now politically?
No, I that was.
Like, talk about Master Teacher, because it's one of my favorite songs on New America,
Hmm.
and like, but it also is just such a beautiful mess of a song. Like, I don't know where the hook starts. I don't know. Is it Georgia?
Hmm.
Georgia and Malta helm
Georgia,
that
and
song, right?
yeah, it
What
was.
does she like to work with? Because I was such a fan of hers, but I've never really got to chop it up in a way that I
Oh
wanted to.
man,
I never got to watch her make beats or anything.
she is a genius. Georgian is a genius. Incredible, incredible musician. Um, and nasty beat maker. Like,
Yes.
wow, she's dirty. Like, so working with her is dope. She went to the new school,
When year
but
did you first go there?
90, I went there from 97 to like 90, not 90, like the end of 98.
So the weird thing is that had I did what my dad wanted me to do, I would have been a senior because I took years off to. I call myself paying for the Roots demo. My dad thought I was saving up for college. Really, I was saving up for the Roots demo. So by the time, by 94, I was like, all right, I got to get into a college. Like, I let 4 years go by. So it was cheaper to go to the new school than it was to Juilliard. So if there wasn't a record deal in my future, I would have probably started going to the new school from 93 to 97. So somehow our paths would have quasi crossed
For sure.
had I done that. But who else was there besides you and Glasper?
Um,
Was Chris there as well, or
no, Chris wasn't there. Cedric Mitchell was there. Keon Harold.
Oh,
okay?
Uh,
so cool. Okay, I'm getting it now.
Ma- the Marcus and EJ Strickland brothers,
Oh
the
shit!
saxophone cat, they was there. Um,
Is this under Ellie Howe's tutelage?
yep.
Okay. Shout out to Ellie Howe.
Um, yep. Shout out. Who else was there? Casey Benjamin
Mm,
was
mm,
there.
Rest in peace, Casey
Um,
Benjamin.
rest in peace.
No
Um,
Were
wonder
you,
y'all
were
was
you
so
were
tight.
you were they all as advanced as now, or is it just like
mm-hmm.
was it
Yeah.
intimidating?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't intimidated. It was just right back to high school though. Like I always felt like as the singer just trying to prove myself to be around the bad cats. You know what I mean? Like, oh, hey, what about that suspended fourth, huh?
Well, surely, I mean, I would
Why?
assume
Why
that
is
by
that?
then, you got their respect.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, because Rob was the first one to be like, this shit is dope. He's dope, y'all. But his mother was a vocalist, so he he kind of like warmed them up to me. But I was kind of the weirdo because I really didn't fit in with the singers either, because um I still had PTSD from high school, so I came to jazz school just scatting, nothing but scatting. Like I so
How confident were you in your scatting skills? Like, when did you first adapt
oh,
to
I
it?
was mad. By then I was mad confident because I started to learn so like I had learned all Lee Morgan solos. I learned all fucking Miles Davis's
Ahmir, you told
solos.
me this. This is what I
Like
remember.
I had them on memory, like,
Yeah, but I didn't know he was an outcast.
Because that's
but
how we.
that was my way in. I had to like go to the jam sessions and just battle, trade bars with these cats. And I had learned changes by then, so I was cutting some of them cats back then.
So did you?
Of course, I couldn't now, but
Did you have to like? Did you subscribe to the John Hendricks vocalese kind of school
yeah.
of
I used to hang
where
out
you
at
would
John
study
Hendrix's
shit?
house.
Wait,
I used,
you knew
yeah, I
John
used to,
Hendricks?
yeah, because I had tried out
Nigga,
for the
talk about
Manhattan
that. I didn't know y'all
transfer.
knew each other.
Yeah, I tried out for the Manhattan transfer in
What?
college. And me and Rob used to go over to John Hendrix's house and jam with him. And
Oh my
this
god.
motherfucker,
You
he used to
right,
cut
Super
both
Man.
me and Rob whistling. And I would be in there scatting all my scatting shit, and he would just whistle some of the baddest shit. But yeah, I would go over his house and do duo all the time. That was the
Dude,
cool thing about the new school because they could get in contact with whoever they knew if they had it in the Rolodex, and then they would just ask them right out, we got a young cat that just wants to
oh
chill
my
with you.
god.
They used to
Oh,
be
And then
everything to me.
boom.
Oh
I was
man.
like, John Hendricks, what?
all right, so for our listeners, let me explain. For our listeners,
Oh,
in the jazz world, there's a thing called technically called vocalese, which is basically It's kind of their version of We Invented the Remix, where they would take an established, if a song becomes an established standard, i.e., Freeloader Freddy or Autumn Leaves or whatever, and it was just traditionally jazz, then a figure like Eddie Jefferson or John Hendricks or his other group, Lambert, Hendricks,
Kendrick
and
and
Ross,
Ross.
yeah, they would add lyrics to these songs. But the thing was, you had to be faithful to the definitive solo. So,
Yeah.
for a great example, listen to John Hendricks' Freeloader Freddy
Freddie
with,
Freeloader.
I'm sorry, Freddie Freeloader with Bobby Hendricks, Bobby McFerrin, Al Jarreau, George Benson, and John Hendricks, in which the four of them, note for note, nail Miles, Adderley's, like all the
Mm-hmm.
solos on the original. And to me, it just seems so intimidating. One, to study a solo, but then to memorize it. So, like, as a singer, am I able to put like a fake book in front of you? Fake book is a jazz Bible. Am I able to put
Mm-hmm.
a fake book in front of you and you instantly read the notes, notate, and know exactly where to go? Or do you have to listen and study the song? And
Back then, I could. Now, no. Ever since I got signed, I fucking forgot everything. But back then, I
I'm glad you did.
back then I played enough piano. I was on All City Jazz Band as piano in Philly.
Word.
They had they had beat me over the head to the point where I was reading charts in the big band. I forgot all that shit though. But yeah. And
Still
and
a
I in college I didn't want to study with none of the vocalists, so I studied with Reggie Workman, the bass player for Train.
Jesus
I studied with
Christ.
Reggie Workman, and
monster.
I studied with this guitar player, Armin Danilian, but he's like a jazz virtuoso guitar
Yes.
player. But his whole shit was, man, you got an ear like a him and Reggie would always say, you got an ear like a musician, so you should lean into that, like just hearing things as a musician. And from then on, like I just they had me buying saxophone concerto books and learning the saxophone concertos. And then with Armin introduced me to Ravi Shankar's music. And then we just started learning all of the Middle Eastern scales and all of that. And by then I was just on a whole nother level as far as just
Oh my
hearing
God.
shit and scatting, to where the cats I was hanging with, they saw me as a musician. Like when that around, I would say like, yeah, by the time I got to college, like I wasn't intimidated by that anybody no more, especially a musician. Like I heard just like a musician. Like I heard everything.
Dog,
So
you are officially, now I believe that you are the last anointed vocalist. Just
Yeah.
in terms of the masters of the 60s who wrote the blueprint.
Mhm.
Like, you're naming people whom, like, I find in Dilla's record collection in terms of sampling.
He said he
That's
tried out
just
for the
blowing my
Manhattan
mind.
transfer. He said he tried out for the Manhattan transfer, is what he said. That's what he
mm-hmm.
said. He said he tried out for the Manhattan transfer. That's what he said.
Is there a project that you long to do that you haven't done yet? Like Manhattan Transfer type groups, like their counterpart group. Do you have a
Oh.
desire to ever put a vocal group together to try some shit out? Or
Hmm.
It would be no man.
see, he lives in the present.
Come
You didn't think
on,
about that once in your
come
30-year
on,
journey, did you?
come on, like,
No, no. I did it one time with Erica just on like a skit. We was playing around in Electric Lady, and we did Sometimes I'm Happy by what's that cat's name? King Pleasure.
Okay.
That shit.
and we did sometimes in that beam, and we wrote out the harmonies and did it. But I never thought that would be cool though.
All right.
I was seriously a jazz head before I got signed. Like I got talked into like doing R&B and shit from like the Mtume brothers. Like I was really wanted to be like
Amir was
Kurt
one of those
Elling or
people
some
too.
shit.
Because Amir, you know,
I was
remember
like,
All right. We always say this, Bilal. 2025, a real project. 2025.
Real Black Project.
Yes, I want to do that. Look, man,
hell yeah.
there's no way to end it.
I was just talking to Chris McBride about that. We
Oh,
did
bring
it.
him in, bring him out, bring him
Because
out.
we did the thing over there with George Clinton.
Oh, yeah, the song project. Right.
He hosted. That was dope.
Hmm.
Well,
George Clinton is like, I pattern a lot of my stuff after him because he started out as a jazz vocalist
yeah.
and then into the doo-wop and then
What?
into the funk. So
He had it.
I tell him that every time I see him, like, yo, I pattern a lot of like my roadmap by you and like how you kind of got into it.
And he's a
Well,
weirdo that stayed ageless.
right.
He's like my biggest inspiration.
I swear that man's getting younger. He looks
He
amazing.
is. He is.
Yeah. One more thing. One more thing.
Yeah.
What is so great about working with Robert Glasper? Because y'all work
I
together
was about
so
to
much.
say we didn't even mention Glass properly.
Ah,
Yes.
that's
Please tell me about this working relationship that you guys have and why it just works the way
well,
it does.
Robert is like it feels like I'm working with like with myself because we have the same kind of thoughts on music, on how to blend the genres and kind of like have the same sensibility of jazz, but go anywhere with it. So that's like my musical brother. Well, a lot of times when we work, we don't even, it's not even planned. It's
Yeah.
just once again like these just cool mistakes, and in the middle of the mistake we make it mean something. But
It's the beautiful mistakes.
yeah, when I work with Rob, I don't even it's it's so um home, you know what I mean? Where I don't really think too much while I'm doing it.
With your children, has the epigenetic effect happened? Like,
Mm.
are they singers as well? Do they have musical talent? What do they think when they watch you perform?
My kids think I'm weird. My kids think I'm a odd bird.
Okay.
They're right.
But I think none of them are musicians, even though I've tried my best. They've been in piano and drums and everything. But my kids like art. They like to they like all things art, all things anime. They're in that kind of a world. So
Hey,
I think they could possibly maybe rap. Like when they were little kids, they used to rap because Talib Kweli's son Amani.
hmm
We lived across the hall from I lived across the hall from Talib for a while, and his son Amani used to watch my kids,
hmm
and I think that's another way that I got into learning the young kids like Pink Sifu or Liv and all these young musicians out today, because they would always hang out at Amani's house, and they had my kids rapping like as little kids. So I
Okay.
know they have the skill to rap, but they want to be like anime cats.
Okay.
My wife says that my son Ferris can sing, but he's very secretive with his talents. Like he does, he's shy about it. I don't know why. Like
Yeah, I cannot see that. This is one of the fruit falling far from the tree moments where I'm like, I know that one of them has a voice in them, but you know, you're
I was the only musician in my family though, that kind of like made this step to be a musician. Like I'm the only musician in my family. Everybody else is like my sister is an electrician.
Oh,
My brother does construction. Like my father does construction. I come from a family of construction workers,
that's
really.
why you wanted to be an
So I'm like the
architect and
only,
stuff. Wow.
yeah, I'm like the only one that kind of like leaned into music. I don't come from like a musical family or anything like that. So like everything that I do, I kind of like
Or maybe all the
made it
talent
up.
just went into your children.
Mm-hmm.
You inherited it.
Yeah.
Look, I said it before. I'll say it again. Oh, were you saying something, Steve?
Yeah. Well, if you're signing off, yeah. A lot of people ask me my favorite sessions have been over the years, and a lot of times I'll talk about Hard Groove, the Roy Hargrove album with Russ at Electric Lady, and that whole amazing record. And then I also mentioned my time with Bilal up in Studio C at Electric Lady, working on, I guess, is it called Love for Sale, the album that we
Right?
were working on?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
those sessions, just man, you were like you were the first artist who really gave me just complete freedom in the studio to experiment and to we'd lay stuff down during the day, and then I'd stay late and come in early and sort of do rough mixes for you, and just you just let me do whatever. We were doing some real experimental stuff, and I wanted to thank you for that, because that was really when I first started to feel my own voice, I guess, as an engineer and producer and stuff like that. Also, if anybody is
Am I the second?
looking, yeah, you're somewhere down the list, but yeah, you're the,
Like
um,
way.
yeah. But if anyone's out there looking for a Bilal song that they probably never heard before, check out Black Coffee in Bed, a squeeze song that
Oh
Bilal was
yeah.
gracious enough to sing on with Nikki Jean.
Oh, we
Yeah,
Nicky Jean? Wait,
it's
It's
that's
a
it.
streaming.
45, right?
Yeah, it's out. You can stream it. Black Coffee in Bed. Thank you for that, Bilal. That was a big
Oh, you
song,
already
also.
know.
Yep,
Yeah, we did some real experimental shit. Those was the days.
Yeah.
those were the days. Yeah.
Well, look, man, I as you know, this being our first professional interview with you. Um, look, man, what more can I say? You're still one of my favorite creative humans.
Mhm.
And oftentimes I have many a what will Bilal do moment when it comes to figuring out what daredevil artistry I want to leash on my audience, like from my DJ gigs to like a lot of my bolder. The hell is he doing? What I think he's doing.
Mhm.
Any of those times where people have asked that, usually the green light starts with kind of what would Bilal do. So you're literally like, I know people think of North Stars as a person in the past who's like died and you're upholding something, but you're really an exemplary uh fearless performance artist. Even Howard Stern says you're one of his favorite singers, and
What?
he had no clue. There's
What?
there's a moment. So we did a tribute to John Lennon, and Steve had introduced a song to me
Woo!
called Mother.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that Yoko Ono kind of got John Lennon to. He didn't want to go to therapy, so he went to screaming therapy. And if you listen to the song Mother, um, that's kind of where the anger of being an orphan really comes out. Starts very gentle, but by the end, John Lennon's stark raging mad about his childhood. And I knew that if we were given permission to do that song at Madison Square Garden for the John Lennon tribute, we would steal the show. And if you listen to the Stern show the day after that concert, he didn't know you by name, but he was like, there was a singer with Jimmy Fallon's band
Mhm.
who just absolutely stole, people correct him. That was the Roots. That was the Roots. And he's just like, at first he was like, "What are these guys doing on the stage? Are they going to rap like Give Peace a Chance?" And and you absolutely floored him. So
Wow, that's what's up.
keep on, man. I appreciate your artistry and thank you very much for doing our podcast with us.
Thank you for having me, G. You one of my
Thank you.
biggest inspirations and reasons I'm here. You know,
Well,
one
I
of my
appreciate.
early champions.
Hey, I'm all dog. I, hey, thank you for the honor of that, man. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
on behalf of Laia and Bill and Steve, this is Questo signing out. This is Questlove Supreme with the one and only Bilal. We'll see you next time. Thank you.